What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sutton Brown, and this is Sutton Brown's Film Reviews Movie Report. Now, basically, what Movie Report is, I take every movie that I've seen within the past week, and I review them one by one. And so, basically, this is a great way for me to review movies, practice reviewing them, and giving you some ideas on some films you should check out. Now, before I dive into the 9 movies that I saw this week, I want to go over a couple things. Number one, I have taken a couple ideas, and for this, I'm going to apply one of doing subcategories. Basically, the films that I watched this past week are going to be categorized in one of 4 categories. The first one is going to be rewatches. The second one is going to be first-time viewings. The third one is going to be new releases. And the fourth one is going to be all-time favorites. So if there's specific ones that you want to look at, there will be timestamps down below. Be sure to check those out. And with that said, let's get started with the movie report. Number 2. We're kicking things off with rewatches, and the first of 2 films in this category is going to be The Princess and the Frog. Now, this is a movie released by Disney in 2009 and was directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. It stars Anika Noni Rose, Bruno Campos, Keith David, Jim Cummings, and Michael Leon Woolley. This is a movie that tells the story of a princess that is magically turned into a frog after kissing a frog prince, and their journey is to become human again. Now, this is a movie that I watched as a kid and enjoyed, but this rewatch, I think, revamped why I liked it and made me love it even more. This is a movie that's got great characters, it's got fantastic music, some of my favorite from Disney in recent memory, and it's got really phenomenal 2D animation. And it's the type of animation that I miss Disney doing. I remember there's so many movies like Mulan and The Emperor's New Groove and several others that use 2D animation that, again, are some of my favorite animated movies of all time. And this is one of the last one. The Princess and the Frog is one of the last movies they use 2D animation with. Now, hopefully, maybe someday they'll do another one, but if this really is the last one, I'm not going to be disappointed because it's got all those great elements. You got great character arcs and really great thematic exploration on balancing life, where you can have fun and you can work hard in harmony. And so that's why I think that this movie maybe connected with me more, is because of that thematic exploration. So, again, this isn't the best Disney movie. In fact, there's a little bit of rushing with some of these character arcs and some of these plot lines, and maybe a couple jokes here and there that kind of lean too much into the gross humor. But overall, I think this movie brings enough laughs and, gets me singing to the music enough that I would rewatch this again anytime. So that's my review of The Princess and the Frog. The second film in rewatches, and the final one for today, is the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. This is going to be one of 2 SpongeBob movies I will talk about on this list. Another one will be coming later in this video. Now, this is a film that stars Tom Kenny, Clancy Brown, Antonio Banderas, and Matt Berry. It is directed by Paul Tibbitt and Mike Mitchell. And this is the movie of SpongeBob teaming up with Plankton to rescue the secret formula after it mysteriously disappears. Now, this is a movie that when it came out, it was being marketed in kind of an interesting way. And so a lot of people who watched it were disappointed by it. I was too stupid enough to really follow up on marketing, so I just thought it was another SpongeBob movie. So I'm like, yay, SpongeBob. So, on this rewatch, because previous watches, I like it, but I didn't love it, especially as much as the first film, which I hold dear to my heart. This is a movie that I feel, on this rewatch, wasn't as good as I remember it, but it's still not as bad as people make it out to be. It still has some of the charm and some of the humor of original SpongeBob content that, I love to watch all the time, that I love to laugh over all the time. You got those great characters that, I came to know and love, like SpongeBob, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, Squidward, Plankton, and you even have some fun additions here. You have Antonio Banderas playing Burger Beard, who I kind of think is an underrated villain, but that's not the point. The point is that it has all the elements that I love from SpongeBob, and it gets a lot of things right. I think where this movie maybe doesn't hit me as hard as other SpongeBob content is that a lot of the humor, a lot of the story, the character arcs, the music, it doesn't feel at the peak level of SpongeBob. It's good, it's fine for the most part, but it doesn't hit that high level that other stuff does. So when you have other things to watch from SpongeBob, it's more entertaining or more emotional or more enjoyable to watch those things than it is to watch something like this. Again, I think this movie does not deserve as much crap as it gets from people. But for me, I do feel that if I were going to watch something else in SpongeBob, I'd either watch the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob or the original SpongeBob movie before I'd watch this. But if I had to watch this again, I wouldn't mind. The first film in the second category, which is first time watches. So again, these are any movies that have come out before 2024 that I have never seen before. Now, this first movie is going to be called The Killer. This is a movie directed by David Fincher. I believe it is his latest film. I don't know if he has anything else planned, but as of now, this is what we've got as his last movie. It stars Michael Fassbender, Tilda Swinton, Charles Parnell, and Arliss Howard. And this is a movie taken from the perspective of an assassin who is on a mission and a vengeance quest. Now, this sounds like any other assassin movie that you could think of, but like I just said, it's all from his perspective. So you're hearing his thoughts, you're seeing his actions, you're following him the entire time, a little bit more than you'd usually follow an assassin character like him. And at least for me, I found that very fascinating. In fact, I really liked following this character, and he's known as the Killer, and that's pretty much all he's known as. But Michael Fassbender does a phenomenal job of capturing this character in both action and thought. Now, this character doesn't have a lot of dialogue, like, coming out. Most of what you hear from this character is in his mind. So you're hearing his thoughts. Sometimes it's random, sometimes it's a little humorous, sometimes it's a little dark. It's kind of all over the place, which is one of my issues with the movie, but it's also one of the movie's strengths, because you're following this character, you're getting to know him without really hearing him talk too much. You're listening to him talk in his mind, reacting to certain situations, or even overreacting to some situations, or giving his thoughts and impressions on certain ideologies, or desires, or dreams. Like, basically anything you can think of, this character thinks, and you, as the audience, know that, but not everyone else does. Another thing this movie does super well is, because of that element and because of the story, you're able to really dive into this character. You're able to get to know his faults, his desires, and also his obsessions. Because this is a movie that deeply explores obsession, art, passion, and even a little bit of disconnection. It explores all of those, like how somebody obsessed with something disconnects themselves from others, people they love, or even desires that they have. And I think it works because of David Fincher's direction, because it's assured, it's precise, it's consistent. Even with the mind thing going all over the place, you can tell that David Fincher is paying attention to all these random little things that most people wouldn't even think about. And the biggest thing that I did not expect this movie to deliver was that character study. Like that prime focus on that character and that attention to detail that just made everything intriguing and engaging, more than most other assassin films that I've seen in recent memory. Now, the biggest problem that I can say this movie has is because of the movie's fascination with the character study, the story itself is very plain and underdeveloped. It's a movie that if you just take it on a story level, you've seen it before several times, and maybe even seen the story itself done a little bit better or a little bit more engaging. And I can get that maybe that wasn't the film's priority because of the focus on the main character, the killer. But I do feel that if the story was taken a little bit more time to be developed or to be given maybe a little bit of an extra layer, the story and the character study could have complemented each other super well to create, I guarantee, probably one of my favorite experiences watching an assassin movie. But again, because the story is very plain, if I'm in the mood for a good story, I'd rather rewatch other movies. But if I'm in the mood for a great character study, this is a fascinating movie to watch for that. So again, The Killer, even though I do have that problem with the story, I feel that just about everything else works. You have a great score, you have great performances, you have great direction, and even really great editing and focus on the cinematography, letting you envelop on these characters. So it's a movie that isn't perfect, but is a movie that is really great, and I highly recommend. Film number 2 on first time watches, and this is The Gray. This is a movie I want to take a few minutes on a little bit longer just because of how much it impacted me. So, I mean, if you've already seen this movie and you don't want to hear me talk about it, you can skip. But if you want to hear me talk about it, sit on down and buckle up. Because this is a movie that was released in 2011, directed by Joe Carnahan, and stars Liam Neeson, Frank Grillo, Dermot Mulroney, and Dallas Roberts, and tells the story of a group of oil workers who survive a plane crash and are hunted down by ravenous wolves. Now, this is a great concept for a thriller, and one that I was highly anticipating, wanting to watch for several years, but just never found the time to do so. Mainly because I was on a mission for my church, and I always had other movies come up that I wanted to watch, so I finally sat down and watched this. And it's one of the most raw and emotionally gut-punching and somewhat depressing thrillers that I have ever seen. Now, I say depressing to its advantage, because this is a movie that is not afraid to be bold with its characters, its storytelling, and its thrills, while also keeping the heart at the core of this movie, the central message and theme of this movie, while keeping everything engaging from beginning to end. The first thing that I want to talk about that this movie does so well is it takes what could be kind of a silly concept where wolves are hunting people down and grounds it in reality. This movie is one of the best examples of not rushing things and not going over the top and silly with things, while also still delivering the thrills you would expect from a movie like this. So you have characters taking time to mourn. You have characters taking time to be developed. You have wolf attacks. And they're grounded in reality. You have characters going through pain and suffering. You do have consequences to actions. But you also have a central heart and beat to every single moment that is on display. And so every character moment matters. Every action matters. And every second is used to help the viewer be engaged with the story and the themes. Another thing this movie does incredibly well is it takes a great cast, gives them great characters, and enables these characters to also be grounded in reality. So you have Liam Neeson, who plays this really compelling character. I believe his name is John Otway. And basically, this character is a movie about him. And you're experiencing all his struggles and his pains, somewhat through flashbacks, but also through the way he interacts with people, the way he wants to help people, and also how he deals with stressful circumstances, how he deals with the consequences of others, and also how he deals with people giving up or even having faith and exuding faith. It's a character that changes quite a bit because of these circumstances, but I would say it's one of the best arcs for a character that I've seen in a film like this, where you have this thriller and it's really fun, but it does not shy away from helping this character feel like somebody you can connect with. And so you care about what happens to him and the assisting characters. And again, Liam Neeson does a phenomenal job. There's a scene in the end that actually almost broke me to tears, because he just really captures the loss, the pain, but also the faith that he gains throughout this journey. Because that's what this movie is really about. It's a journey about faith. It's a journey about purpose and not giving up. And I wish I had the poem memorized that this movie made really famous. But the lines in that poem is one of the most effective lines said by a character to convey a message that relates to the plot and themes of the film that was displayed. And I also think this movie works phenomenally well because Joe Carnahan has a great eye for deep human emotions and terrifying consequences and thrills, where these wolves are a threat. The weather is a threat. And Joe Carnahan is able to use these circumstances to help shape these characters and that help them change and grow and learn and stay alive, or even some of them die. And it's a sad reality when characters can die, but you're also, again, you're seeing their changes. So even though their life comes to an end, you're seeing the growth and change they're having. There's even characters that react negatively and don't change. And that's perfectly fine, because not every character is going to change. And the final thing that I want to talk about this movie does so well is just on a filmmaking perspective. It's so well done. You have a phenomenal pace. You have great cinematography. You have great editing. The music soars in this movie, especially in the final act. It helps elevate the drab, tense sequences, and also helps the heart beat so high in the final moments of this movie. Again, this is a movie that if you watch on first glance, you might get the wrong impression of. But I'm here to say that there is a lot more this movie teaches than what is on the surface. It is very deep, it's very poignant, and it is very thought out from beginning to end. So, this is a movie that it quickly can become one of my favorites just because it has so much to unpack. And I loved it. And I grew attached to it. I grew attached to the characters, the themes, the storytelling, and Joe Carnahan's direction. And so this is a movie that I at least ask you to give a chance, because it's a movie that can impact you if you let it. But if you just want to see wolves tear people apart, you can also see that too. So I'm not going to shy you away from that. So again, The Grey is phenomenal, and I think you should check it out. Before I continue on with this video, I want to thank you all for staying tuned in. If you like this video, be sure to show that down below, and also comment your movies that you've seen this past week. And if there are any recommendations of movies you want me to see, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Also, if you are not subscribed to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button for future videos and future movie reports. Now, with that said, let's get back to it, to the movie report. The first film in category number 3, which is the new releases. This is going to be Despicable Me 4. This is the 4th film in the mainline Despicable Me franchise. It is the 6th film in the entire Despicable Me franchise, and tells the story of Gru having to go into hiding when a high school rival seeks revenge for something he did to him in the past. Now, I am a massive fan of the Despicable Me movies. I love just about every single one of them. even the ones that are the weakest, I still have a good time with. And so naturally, I'm always excited to see what Gru and the gang have coming next. And to give my thoughts, I easily believe this is the weakest of the Despicable Me movies. By no means is this a bad movie. I don't think that. I think Illumination always at least delivers competently made and fun movies. But in terms of their filmography, and especially within this franchise, it just doesn't maintain what I love about this franchise and kind of delivers what I'd expect. It gives you the gags, the cute characters, and the absurd scenarios that you'd expect from every Despicable Me movie. And there are definitely some great laughs here. But in terms of the characters and the story, the character arcs, and even the exploration of parenting that I really like this franchise explores, it doesn't really do anything new or even great for this franchise. It always does the bare minimum, but it doesn't go beyond that. And so if you're here to watch a movie about parenting, there are several movies that teach it better. If you're here for a bunch of laughs, there are other movies that do that better, especially in the Despicable Me franchise. You also have the characters of the Despicable Me franchise, and there's not really anything that happens that changes them indefinitely that I feel other movies in this franchise have. Like, even Despicable Me 3 at least feels like it has a great character arc for Gru, where he has to come to terms with his brother trying to be a criminal, but he also has to be the family man. And so he has to pick and choose. This movie has good moments with his character, but not great moments. It doesn't, again, do anything with his character that shows change or even makes me appreciate his character even more. It just does exactly what you'd expect and then just moves forward. And even on a story level, there's not really a consistent story here. There's a bunch of scenarios that happen, but they don't all fit together the best. And so you have characters going off and doing one thing, other characters doing off another thing. But because you have so many things going on, nothing feels like it can go that next level. It all feels like it does the bare minimum. So again, like, I can watch this movie and have fun with it, but in terms of like wanting to rewatch it, I don't really have that desire to as much as I would other movies in this franchise. So it's a little disappointing, but I can't really say that considering it's the fourth movie and these movies have kind of gone downhill just a little bit, but that's just my opinion. If you love this franchise, I am not going to hold you against it because, again, I am a massive fan of this franchise. But as of now, there's not really any signs for me to see this movie keep progressing unless they can find its footing again. Film number 2 on First Time Watches New Releases Edition is Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. This is a movie that is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. It is directed by George Miller and stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, and Tom Burke, and tells the origin story of the character Furiosa. So this is a movie that I wouldn't say I was the most anticipated for, but it's a movie that I really enjoyed. It's not as great as Mad Max Fury Road, but it still offers most of what I like about that movie. You got great production design, especially in costume design. The costume design is pitch perfect. You also have really great set of characters. Like Furiosa, I'll talk a little bit more about her. I don't think that she was amazing, but she was still a really compelling lead character. And even freaking Chris Hemsworth coming as Dr. Dementis is one of the funnest experiences I saw in this movie. Because you have a great character who has a really good philosophical agenda, but uses it in the wrong way. Trying to help people become the best version of themselves in this wasteland. But sadly, some of that is turning them into the worst versions of themselves, which he claims to be the best version of themselves. And even trying to show that the wasteland can become something powerful, and he wants to demonstrate that through sort of an iron fist. Now, his character's really fun, and it's a great dynamic between him and you have Anya Taylor-Joy playing Furiosa. I think both are great in their roles. And this world of Mad Max is explored so well. It makes the not Fury Road, sorry. It makes the Mad Max world feel a lot more immersed in, because there's so many different areas you get to explore in this movie, and all these great landscape shots that help you appreciate this world that George Miller has created. And it's a really compelling story of vengeance and becoming the best version of ourselves. Again, you see a lot of people becoming the worst versions of themselves, and you see characters becoming what they potentially are made of or meant to be. And yeah, the film is not afraid to show the darker side of some of these characters and how they react to this world that has fallen apart, and trying to even put it back together a little bit. And so, not only that, like, you have great cinematography. The visual effects definitely are super noticeable, which I think is one of the biggest problems in this movie, but it's still not like the worst I've seen. It's pretty good, but there are a ton of sequences where you can definitely tell they were using CGI versus practical effects, which is what I love about Mad Max Fury Road. You have a lot of practical effects, and so almost everything in that movie feels believable. In this movie, like, there are so many sequences that are believable, and then you have other sequences that aren't believable. So it just took me out a little bit. Another thing that this movie maybe isn't the greatest at is kind of explaining why we needed a Furiosa origin story when this movie could have just been another Mad Max movie in the wasteland. And so, like, I think this movie works better as that additional Mad Max movie, even though the character's not in it, versus an origin story for Furiosa. So again, like, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I had fun with the characters. I had fun with several of these action sequences, and also the production design and the costume design really helped this movie feel a little bit more lived in. But I do wish that the CGI was catered to a little bit more, and also that the origin story of Furiosa was given more oomph than what I saw on screen. But again, it's still a great movie. Alright, everyone, we have come down to the final 3 movies, and like I said at the beginning of this video, I made a category specific for my favorite movies of all time. This week, I saw 3 of my favorite movies of all time. I was able to rewatch them. They could technically be considered rewatches, but I want to give these movies their due time, because the all-time favorites category is meant to show my appreciation for the movies that have changed me the most or helped me love movies even more. So with that said, we're going to jump off to the first movie in this category. That is going to be, give me a second. There we go. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This is one of the most influential movies ever in my life. And so this is a movie that was directed by Rupert Wyatt, and it stars Andy Serkis, James Franco, and John Lithgow. It is about the character of Caesar, an ape who has been given a dose of this intelligence-giving serum. And so basically he becomes smart, and this movie is exploring his character and showing his capability as a leader. Now, the reason that this movie is super impactful to me is this is one of the first movies I remember sitting down with my dad on the couch and watching, and I just remember being enthralled with just about everything this movie had to offer. And over the years, it's been a movie that's grown on me so much and helped me appreciate more of what it started, because this is the start to a new Planet of the Apes franchise. In fact, last year, we even got a new film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I love. In fact, I love all 4 of these movies. And Rise of the Planet of the Apes is pretty much my favorite of the four. It's really close with War for the Planet of the Apes. Both of them could go neck and neck. They could switch any day. But the reason I love Rise of the Planet of the Apes is because you have this compelling character, Caesar, that was one of the most influential characters to showing how I can become a leader, how I can grow up. Even though a character like Caesar is flawed and makes mistakes, he owns up to them and is able to learn and grow as a character. And it just showed me a lot of what movies can do with characters, making these characters that are really fun to watch and are really memorable, but also have a layered story and character arc that is explored throughout the movie from beginning to end. You also have a really phenomenal set of people who worked on the visual effects in this movie, especially Andy Serkis, who I don't think he came up with the idea, but heavily emphasized the idea of using the technology they did for this movie, which for the life of me I can't remember, but motion capture is what it's called. It's really incredible what they're able to pull up to make these apes feel like real apes. And not only that, but the actors behind them are able to emote so much and bring these characters to life. So you have, I'd argue, my favorite performance from Andy Serkis as Caesar, because there's so much that he does without even using dialogue. He barely speaks in this movie, but you can just tell with his facial expressions, his body work, everything just helps his character feel brought to life and feel relatable in the circumstances he's given. And not only that, you have a great story, you have great thematic exploration, very, very underrated music. I love the music, especially the final bits of this movie. The score soars so high to help everything feel like this is the epic start to a franchise that I love. And you also have great direction, and like initially when I first saw it, you had a really phenomenal tease to like movies coming ahead, and then luckily those movies captured what this movie did, and some of them even better. But again, I love what this movie did to me and helped me appreciate and love movies for what they are and what they're capable of. And so that's why this movie is so impactful to me and is a movie that I want you to check out at least once. The next film in all-time favorites is The Martian. This is a movie directed by Ridley Scott and stars Matt Damon as Mark Watney, an astronaut stranded on Mars that needs to survive before help can come. This is a movie that I love. Like, I'm just flat out saying it. It's an all-time favorites. You should know this by now. But it's a movie that I love and feel is Ridley Scott's best movie that he's made. Now, he has great movies, phenomenal movies. Two of them are in my all-time favorites list as well. You have Alien and Gladiator. But this movie is the best in my opinion because you have just about everything that I love about movies in one. So you have a really high entertainment value. You have great filmmaking elements to it. And you have a really poignant story of hope and faith and knowledge. And so talk about that first one, the filmmaking aspect. I think this movie is just so great in paying attention to the details. So the details of the cinematography, the special effects, the practical set designs, the practical costumes, and even the performances. Just about everything in this movie feels thought out. And the second thing that I think that this movie does so well with, and that goes to the next one, is it's entertaining. It's not just a well-made movie that you can appreciate the craft of everything, but it's a movie that you can laugh, you can cry, and you can be enveloped in this world. You want to explore this world more. And because of those filmmaking elements, everything feels grounded and believable. And so that leads to the third element, which is the poignancy of the story and the character arcs. And a big reason those elements complement what this is going for is because you have a great cast, you have a great director who knows what he's doing and is consistent with being lighthearted while also not being afraid to show tragic events happen. And so everything feels like it has the right balance. You have humorous moments, you have lighthearted moments, you have tragic moments, you have triumphant moments. And this movie is able to hit that emotional roller coaster so well because it all feels thought out, balanced, and doesn't overstay its welcome. And Matt Damon gives what I'd argue one of his best performances in his life. Because this is a great character. This is a phenomenal character, Mark Watney, who's given this opportunity to test his knowledge and his faith. There's a lot of faith that he has to go through to survive and to believe there is a way off. And so I feel like this movie does a great job of helping the filmmaking and the entertainment develop his character, and even the world of Mars to shape his character. So again, like, I can watch this movie basically for anything. I can watch it to have a good time. I can watch it to know how to make a movie. And I can also watch it to feel something. Like, the final moments of this movie gut punch me just about every time. And so I will always look forward to rewatching this movie. And it's one of the movies that my dad loves rewatching the most. So shout out to him on The Martian. All right, the moment you've been prepared for. You've been waiting for this moment your entire lives. Or it could just be this video. Anyways, it's the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I'm ready to give my review on this masterpiece. And I'm not kidding when I say that. So, this is a movie directed by Steven Hillenburg, who is the creator of the SpongeBob SquarePants TV show. And it stars, here is the cast: Tom Kenny, Clancy Brown, Roger Bunpass, Bill Fagerback, Mr. Lawrence, and Scarlett Johansson, where SpongeBob and Patrick need to save the crown, to save Mr. Krabs. But this is a movie that I think is a masterpiece at what it's going for. It's not the type of movie you'd watch for filmmaking. It's not the type of movie you'd watch to be enveloped in this deeply emotional and complex story. It's a movie you watch to laugh. It's a movie you watch to enjoy these characters, and I am okay with that. I am a goofy goober, and I am rocking that stance. Because this is a movie that will make me laugh from beginning to end. I love these characters from beginning to end. And even though it's not the most emotionally complex story, it still teaches and has a lesson about growing up and about accepting who you are while still being willing to change. And so just about everything in this movie is what I love about SpongeBob. It's got some of the most memeable moments I've seen. It's got great songs. It's got a phenomenal voice cast. This voice cast is phenomenal. It's pitch perfect. I wouldn't change a thing ever. And even a lot of the exploration of SpongeBob's character in this movie, it's both hilarious, but you also can understand where he's coming from. And I love how in the final moments of this movie, like, it can kind of play laughs on his journey, but it still gives room and time for this movie to appreciate the triumphs of him and Patrick's journey. And so again, like, this is a movie that I will always laugh over, I will always enjoy, and it always will remain one of my favorite movies. Now the real question is, are you a goofy goober? And are you gonna rock? And that concludes today's movie report. If you enjoyed this video, again, smash that like button, comment below any movies you want me to watch or any favorite movies you've seen this week, and subscribe for more future content. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you on the next movie report. Take care.